It's Carter Man, host of Coffee with the Carter Man, America's #1 political activist podcast. Make sure to watch on all your social media. And I'm here at a thrift store, watching people try to save some money by getting some nice secondhand stuff. I love the place. And I'm reminded of some other people who wish they had thrift stores around, but they're so damn broke that even thrift stores wouldn't help them. And that's the people of Honduras. And why am I reminded of that? Because the president of Honduras has now issued a threat that if Trump sends back the 5 million Hondurans that she and the other corrupt, vicious, avaricious politicians have driven to this country, that she's going to retaliate by closing our base there and maybe even attacking it. Okay, well, let's provide an answer to Ms. Castro, who really should be Miss Zelaya, because she's married to Manuel Zelaya, who actually is the president of Honduras, and every Honduran knows it. He was the president they impeached in 2009 for teaming up with Hugo Chavez to bring drugs into Honduras and hold a corrupt election, which was barred by the Constitution. So that's who's in charge of the country now, making the threats from Honduras. So let me suggest what Trump's response should be. I know a little bit about Honduras because I have a home there and my wife is there. And the situation of the people there is pathetic, the poverty. Trump's response should be, okay, we'll close the base. Since the only purpose of the base there, well, it's twofold. One is to defend Honduras, which doesn't need, nobody's trying to invade it, who in the hell wants it. And two, to provide humanitarian aid to the people of Honduras. That's what our base does there, period. So if Madam Zelaya wants to get rid of it, it's fine, we'll bring our troops home, which we should be doing from all over the world anyway. And then Trump needs to suggest to her, and I'll tell you what, we're no longer going to burden you with the $200 million a year in foreign aid we send to you, which you steal. You, your husband, and you and your wealthy cronies in Honduras. It never reaches the Honduran people. You say, Carter, how can you know that? Because my wife was raised in abject poverty in Honduras. And she used to ask me, why, if all that money is coming to Honduras, do we never see any of it? Who are down here and are not into Gosagape in politics. Well, they haven't seen any of it for decades because the politicians in Honduras have stolen it all. Just rapacious, disgusting people who let their own citizens live in, I said it before, abject poverty. No food, poor housing, hardly any clothes. That's what Madam Zelaya has done to her people, okay, and her fellow politicians before her did. And they'll continue to do unless Trump puts his foot down. By the way, we'll also cut off the $2.3 billion in remittances sent back by the illegals that have come here. He needs to tell her that. No more. We'll just cut them off. Done. Because once again, and please, Miss Zelaya, don't tell us, well, the people here will suffer from that. Actually, they won't, because you steal it all. You and your husband and your fellow political cronies, Miss Zelaya, Miss Castro, as she calls herself. That's the kind of people we're dealing with. They're the scum of the earth. The other day, they give you an example. They have no railroads in Honduras, but they used to. And you can see where the tracks. And so I asked a friend of mine who is a historian in Honduras, how could that happen? Why would the politicians shut down all the trains? They did this decades ago. And he explained because they own the truck lines. Now imagine that kind of greed. That you deprive your people of rail travel because you want to rip them off with your truck lines, your truck conveyances. That's who we're dealing with. So the one more thing I'd add if I were Trump is, and we intend to arm your adversaries to overthrow your government. Just as Ortega overthrew the Somoza family in Nicaragua back in the 70s, it's now time to arm the muchachos in Honduras to overthrow their corrupt governments and at least have a chance of installing a benevolent dictator like Ortega is in Nicaragua, who helps their people, who mines their minerals, who harvests their oil. All these things the politicians won't do because they're fighting with who should own the rights to it. Ghastly. Most beautiful beaches in the world. No tourism. Beautiful mountains. No tourism. Nothing. Because the politicians don't care. They're ripping off enough money in U.S. foreign aid. So let's cut it off. Let's put an end to it. Okay? In 2008, the United Nations published a paper saying Honduras has no drug problem. No endemic drug problem, and drugs do not come through Honduras as they head north from Venezuela and Colombia. Manuel Zelaya, Madame Castro's husband, is the one who introduced the drug cartels into Honduras. That's her friends now, and they shouldn't be ours. Let's just tell her, call her bluff, cut off the aid, and help the people of Honduras do whatever's necessary to get a good government in there, finally, at last, after decades and decades of oppression. Let's pull an Ortega on them. Let's do this thing.